Hi everyone, this is Robin, and I'm back today for another tarot reading, timeless tarot reading, and this time I am prompted to do more of a love reading with Loki. This is an image created by Angela V. So if you want this image, I'm sure it's on Etsy somewhere. But so we're gonna get kind of love messages, and especially messages that Loki is guiding me to. I don't know if there's going to be channeling in this video or not. Sometimes I just can't really predict it. But they have been very communicative today in telling me what they want in this reading. So maybe we'll see what happens. And so I've got 3 main tarot decks here, and I think this is the inner space. What is it, the inner space? Personal space. There we go. Personal space tarot. The Star Spinner Tarot, and the Circle of Doors Tarot. And earlier this morning, Loki was like directing me towards particular decks, and these are the ones that they wanted today. I also, on a whim, of course we're gonna use the self-created oracle deck, the one that I made for Loki, for additional messages. But I'm also going to use the Legend of Zelda Tarot. This happened on a whim. I saw it and I was like, oh, that's so fun. So I'm going to try something a little bit new this time. So this is going to be additional, or I think it's going to be used at the beginning, where I'm going to do kind of like a energy check of sorts, or at least I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna use this as the like people involved part of the readings, each of the readings. So the rest of the tarot, the rest of the readings are gonna be done with these tarot decks for each pile, and then I'm gonna do the people involved section with this one. It's also a very character-centric deck, and I just think it'll be fun. So, yeah. Let's get into these readings, shall we, and see what we're in for today. It's just going to be general. What do you need to know about love? All right, see you in the individual piles. Hi, pile 1. Welcome to your reading. Let's get started by shuffling a little bit. So this is going to be a reading about love messages, what you need to know about love, relationships, romance, friendships even. Or quasi-platonic relationships. Loki, please guide. Please give it to me in the reading. All right. Don't sass me. All right. All right, we're in for a fun day today. Loki, please guide this reading for pile 1 to give us pile 1's messages about love and relationships. Thank you. Actually, that's the one. All right. So what we're going to do, we're going to do a main theme Two of Pentacles. We're going to do, well, I have this deck out and shuffled. We're going to do the situation. He's telling me that belongs over there. Okay. The situation. We'll get to advice in a bit. But now let's find the people involved. All right. People involved. Person A. Person B. Wild card. And this is meant to be polyamory inclusive. That's why I have a wild card. The wild card can be, although these two are going to be focusing on the interpersonal dynamics of two different people as a basis, but the wild card can symbolize other lovers, community, family, or friends, or I don't know, a pet, I guess. We can have it symbolize a pet as well if you need. So what do we have here? We have a person who is considering their options. So this person is trying to look forward into a new future, is maybe not seeing this other person in it. There seems to be some kind of imbalance internally. Maybe between these two people, but I think that this imbalance is especially in this person, or with relation, like, I think that this person that's showing up as death here, who may not be literally dead, or, you know, if they are, I do apologize, and my condolences, but this doesn't really feel like a reading about grief, or loss in that way. It feels more like a reading about, let's see if we can get rid of the glare here. It feels more like a reading about a situation that, you know, has kind of ended, a relationship that has kind of ended, and I think that this person is just moving away. Like, they're both kind of moving on to other things, but this person, I think, has a bit more of their life to get together. They're going through their spirit guides are around them, you know, and they're kind of figuring out what they need to do to be happy in life. I think that this person maybe needs some introspection, needs to spend some time figuring out what they want out of life, to get that deathbed perspective of if I was on my deathbed, what would I be most proud of doing? Therefore, what should I do now? And or what would I be most regretful of if I didn't accomplish it? And that can really help them to go toward their sense of purpose. I'm never, at least I hope I never, say that you have just like one purpose in life, and that's kind of reductive, fatalistic, and I just don't believe that you have just one purpose. I think that we find purpose as we live our lives, and we decide what purposes call most to us. So this person, Loki is telling me to slow down a little bit. So the sense that I'm getting is that this person dumped this person. Is that this person dumped this person. They're like, I just don't see you in my future. I don't think this is working out, honey. And I feel like this is representing pile 1, in that, you know, you kind of set a boundary, and with this 2 of Swords, but in the reverse, it's like you set a boundary, but you don't feel stuck. You don't feel blocked. So you feel very 2 of Wands energy instead, like openness to the opportunities of the world and kind of considering where you want to go. As opposed to, like, this is a very calm, very kind of stable ground to then make plans. You know, they're standing on this fortress here. They're on stable ground, and are not really affected very much materially by this, what I sense is like a breakup or a dumping. Like, no thank you. This person is on very stable ground, and is like, you know, well, this didn't work out, I will find something better. Very optimistic. And purposeful. Whereas this person kind of needs, and maybe this led to the breakup in the first place, but this person really needs to figure out what life is worth living for. And what their values are, and what their purpose or purposes are that call to them in life. Now, wild card, you know, outside factors, or you know, additional people. This could be family. 10 of rupees, or 10 of pentacles. Basically, this could be family. This could be, I don't feel fear about like expectations of family. I think like this is really just giving me the sense of like that this person is supported by their community, supported by their family, supported by their friends, is again within this very stable. So if you see here that she's on this fortress standing here, and that these people are under a structure, like, these feel like supportive people that are like, yes, you made the right decision. We believe in you, and we're here for you. So that's really awesome. They're proud of you for making this decision for yourself. And it feels like with this 8 of Wands that this person maybe didn't take it so well, and maybe sent you a flurry of texts, or maybe, you know, kept trying to invade and get back into your good graces and say, but take me back, but take me back, but take me back, or like texting angrily, or maybe they said some hurtful words or something whenever you actually broke it off. But understand that you made the right decision, and no matter what they may have said, please don't let it affect you. From everything that I'm seeing in this reading, this is a success. This is, you made the right decision, you made the right choice. The people that truly care for you are with you and support you in this decision, and are very proud of you. And you deserve to be proud of yourself if you're not already. So no matter what they may have like said, or no matter what they may have, you know, accused you of, you know, it's really just like they're whining, they're whinging, they're feeling a bunch of like internal toxicity or an internal instability. And if they've said anything really nasty to you, or if they've said anything, you know, out of brokenheartedness, or out of anger, or anything like that, that understand that it's not about you, it's about them and their own internal BS that they need to go through. And it seems like you've decided that maybe you are just not going to be here for that journey that they need to go through by themselves, you know. maybe something about the relationship was unbalanced. Maybe they had expectations of you that they were not then holding themselves to similar expectations of reciprocity. And you know, like, I don't know, maybe they just never did any chores if you lived together, or maybe they always expected a certain kind of emotional or NSFW like labor from you. Whereas they never like reciprocated, or maybe it's not even that drastic of an imbalance. Maybe it was just like, you know, just like something about the vibe wasn't vibing. Something was not something was just like meh. You know, I think maybe changing of the seasons, the leaves falling here, the new sprout. It's just like, well, I mean, I know that we tried to create this relationship or whatever, but it's just not working. I'd rather just kind of start over. So let's get some advice cards from Loki's Oracle deck. Is this what we're doing for advice? No, he says, this isn't advice. We can do one card for like an oracle card, but this isn't the advice deck. Okay, so let's get the oracle card then first. 2. Okay, he says 2. All right. Blood brother of Odin. What a fraught relationship. Okay. For anybody who's like familiar with Norse mythology, like I honestly like or familiar with Loki and Odin, I love them both like together and individually. I love them both, and but this like relationship, at least in mythology, is really fraught. Is really like difficult. It's just like a lot of using each other, and it's betrayal, and you know, there's an undercurrent of like, at least for a while, there's like loyalty and or like love there, right? Regardless of how you interpret their relationship. But that undercurrent of like love and trust gets muddied and broken whenever betrayals happen, basically. So this isn't to say that this card, I think is or this theme of the mythology is very willing to see multiple sides of an issue, and that what a relationship is what the people involved, you know, more than one person, what the people involved create of it. So one person doesn't make or break a relationship. If it, like, even if someone is very unstable, you know, they don't make or break a relationship by themselves. There was a reason that you were drawn to them, and your part in that relationship going how it went was, you know, a combination of how they acted and how you acted, who they were and how you were, and what drew you to them is indicative of what in you either need or are learning. So I think that this is a symbol of that maybe it was like maybe there was some kind of regret of like, oh, well, you know, if only we had been a little bit better toward each other, if only the circumstances had been a little bit different, if only this or if only that, maybe the relationship could have been better. But ultimately, it seems like you made holistically the right choice to move on from this relationship, because even if there was potential, even if there was truly like love at a point, even if there are these undercurrents of like, if we were better people in better times, we could have been something great. Still, with the current situation as it is, it can't be that. You can't be the most perfect version of yourselves, and you can't be the most perfect, you can't have the most perfect version of this relationship because your situation, your circumstances are not perfect. So, I think it is very, what's the word? Astute, clear-headed. And also there can be some degree of self-compassion with regard to understanding, like realizing that this is not what I need. This is not working the way that either of us needs. And maybe there's even no hard feelings sometimes in because this is a group reading. Maybe there's no hard feelings even. It's just that, you know, this isn't working out, and I think staying together is going to cause both of us far more pain than we need to experience right now. I think we can do other things, you know? We can have nice things. All right, World Breaker. Yeah, and maybe there's some degree of like scapegoating. At least, you know, general reading again, maybe for some of you, there's maybe scapegoating here happening, where maybe you are having this new sense of freedom from this relationship because this person who has a lot of internal stuff to be doing was maybe scapegoating, like projecting, kind of their internal crud onto you, or it feels like less of that kind of reading though. Like, I don't want to go too detailed into what that looks like or the different ways that that can manifest. I think that your intuition and your knowledge of your situation, each individually, all of you, can better help you to figure out if that's a dynamic in this. But the general feeling of the reading, the general energy of this reading is that this World Breaker card is actually a good job. That's not how I usually read this card, because, you know, World Breaker, Ragnarok, end of the world, death and rebirth. I mean, I guess that is relevant here. This is really saying like, good job. You weren't afraid to make waves, and you're going to benefit from it. You know, it may feel kind of like, well, what next at the moment, but you knew where things were going, and you saw the truth, and you were able to prevent the end of the world, like the complete destruction of your life, or you were able to prevent the end of the world, like more heartbreak than you needed to have. And good job for having that foresight. This is also a little bit about like other people's, in this context, I mean, other people's feelings about your decision to remove yourself from their presence, or your decision to break up for your well-being. Their feelings about it are not your responsibility. At least definitely not in this case, is not your responsibility. This person is going through some crap, so excuse me for cursing, but this person is going through some crud, you know, and And if they are projecting onto you, or if they are sending you nasty texts or anything like that, don't take it to heart. Their world might be ending. Because they have to do the rebirth cycle internally. They have to transform themselves. So their world might be ending, or may feel like it's ending. It's a bit melodramatic as a way to say it, but like, and of course death as a card is like a little bit melodramatic sometimes. So they may, God, I hope that this person is not like threatening unaliving or anything like that based off of your decisions. Like, I hope that that's not the case, but if it were the case, that's not your responsibility and that's not on you. Like, if they threaten you with that kind of thing to try and get you back, that's a clear sign that that relationship is never going to work. Never. And honestly, what they need is not you. What they need is a hotline and a therapist, If that's part of it, that's not on you. You are not responsible for them. And you're not responsible for their feelings. But I feel like because of the energy of this reading is so like light and so like like a breath, a breathing out and a release of the tension, and a like, thank goodness that that's finally over. I think that this is mostly, although it had themes of other things that I just went over, I think that this is mostly a like, good job. You can't be afraid to break a few eggs to make an omelet. You're going to make the tastiest omelet, and that omelet is going to be love and being cherished and being in a great relationship. And to make that love omelet, you got to break a few eggs. You got to have a few relationships that just don't work out, And sometimes people get hurt feelings about it, but it's better in the long run to be truthful to yourself and honest to the situation, to realize that it's not working out, and to just move on to other things, to give you and them separate, different opportunities to find what does make you happy and what is going to be sustainable long term. All right, so we're going to get more. We're going to get more cards here from this deck for advice. And, okay. So the King of Pentacles reversed. Page of Wands. Two of Cups reversed. Okay, so like maybe you were having like... Maybe you're having... Oh no, that's the Five of Cups reversed, but it looked like the Two of Cups at the beginning. I'm like, why is she crying? Because it's the Five of Cups. But it looks like two cups. So maybe there's some minor regrets about like, I wish that it didn't end that way. Or maybe they did hurt your feelings with something that they said. Maybe they made you doubt yourself. Again, please don't take anything that they say in this state as relevant to you. It's about them. But maybe you have a sad feeling from time to time. You're like, I made the right decision. I'm not going to go back. But sometimes you're like, damn, I really wanted that to work out, and I feel sad. And that's okay to feel, let that disappointment. I feel like this is kind of muted. It's not like a deep sadness or regret. It's kind of muted. It's just like kind of disappointment. Maybe that person didn't turn out to be who you thought they were, and that the trajectory of the relationship wasn't going where you thought it was going. And that can be really disappointing in and of itself. But what I do see is that Yeah, this person, this person, this Death card and reversed King of Pentacles, was just not going to work out in your future vision, in your aspect of life that you wanted to create for yourself. Like maybe you wanted a family, maybe you wanted them to become part of your chosen family, maybe you wanted kind of like a house and a mortgage and a and 2.5 kids or whatever. or not to be, maybe you just wanted kind of more security, more like groundedness in the relationship, things that you could build together and do so devotedly, building trust, building security, building a life. I think that this person is a not just a planner, but they're planning construction. They're planning a long-term project of their life. They are planning their future security. They're planning to have a 401k, They're planning retirement. They're like in their 20s. Maybe not quite to that extent, but I think that this is someone who is like very much like optimistic about their options and knowing kind of what they want. I think because maybe they've had this person, you, pile one, has had good examples of what material reality and resource, I'm getting too clinical, resource, I think that you've had good examples of relationships. I've like non-romantic relationships, like what good supportive friendship and or family looks like. And I think that has put you in a much more strategic position to know what is working and what is not working, because you don't feel desperate. You have good examples of what love is like in your life. So it helps you to make these decisions and to feel more confident about it than maybe some other people. But that this person is maybe you saw potential in them to be this, like to work toward this future or to become part of your family community. You saw real potential in them, but they're just not there. They're just not there yet. Like maybe, a reversed King of Pentacles can be kind of greedy, materialistic, or could be like bad at managing money, or like maybe even corrupt. Dang. Because I feel like it's less bad at managing money. I feel like it's investing in the wrong things. Kind of just not on the same page about what you're building toward together. And maybe that's why it's ending or ended. The Page of Wands is this person. Is this person who's looking out toward a new adventure and a new way of living and how do I create the future life that I want? That is the Page of Wands. Very like, okay, what's next? Like, not like, oh God, what's next? But more like, yeah, what's next? I'm ready. So even if there's like minor disappointments or like, I thought that was going to work out, don't feel too discouraged. You're going to find what you need. Especially, you keep trying. You're going to find what you need. And eventually you're going to either create this situation that you wanted and or find someone who fits in with these community or family that you have already. And you deserve to have those things. I think internally that you deserve to have those things, and that's part of why you're more optimistic than most. But yeah, if ever like, late at night, you're like, I'm so sad, this didn't work out. Be kind with yourself, but ultimately bring yourself back. Find ways to remind yourself, I made the right decision. And whatever this was in the past, whatever its potential was, it was going to bring you more pain than it was going to bring you what you wanted. So pat yourself on the back, congratulate yourself, bring together your resilience, your strength, and your resources, and your optimism and your hope, and move forward into the future knowing that you can create the life that you want. All right. Thank you so much, Pile 1. I hope you enjoyed this reading. If you would like to thank me for the reading, and monetarily, you may do so. You do not have to. I put these out for free, but if you would like to give me a tip, or if you'd like to support my ability to do this more often, and to move away from work and more towards self-employment where I can do tarot readings for my work, then, you can look into the description of this video and donate to my Venmo. I don't have a Patreon yet, but I'm thinking about it. I'm kind of ideating what I should do. But mostly, check out my other videos. Trigger warning for the processing the genocide of Palestine. Trigger warning for that particular playlist. But otherwise, check out my stuff. You can send me a tip. Definitely like this video and comment what pile you got. Let me know what your situation is. And anyway, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye! Hi, Pile 2! Welcome to your reading. Today, of course, as I said in the intro, we're going to be looking at a love message from Loki. Loki is still around and still here to my extra senses. The first reading did not get channel-y, so I'm thinking maybe this is going to be more chill than my previous reading from Loki that got heavily channel-y. But who knows, they could always surprise us. So what does Pile 2 need to know about love and relationships? Alright, so we're just taking from the top this time. Okay. So, a theme. We have the Hermit. So maybe you are, single at the moment and you're thinking about relationships. Uh-oh. How long has my camera been like that? Hopefully not too long. Camera. Okay, thank you for being patient with me. All right, so for this deck, we're gonna do two people involved and then a wild card. This is meant to be polyamory inclusive. It does not necessarily have to be a polyamorous relationship, but that's part of why we have a wild card to see like other people in your life. But with this deck, we are going to do the advice down here. Or sorry, the situation down here. And then we're going to use the Legend of Zelda Tarot for the people cards, or the people involved. Loki, please guide this reading for Pile 2. He's like, yeah, I know. Person A, person B, wild card. All right. So for this, if our theme is the Hermit. Oh, interesting, interesting. Maybe you are oddly, I'm getting the sense that this pile is for is meant to be inclusive for aromantic and or asexual. I think it's more of a like aromantic bent though. I think it's more of a like I am fine on my own though. My primary relationship is with myself. And it doesn't have to be that it's an aromantic not everybody, since this is a general reading, not everybody is going to be aromantic who watches this. But I think that this is definitely a reading for a pile and for a group of people that is investing in themselves as their primary relationship. This could be also solo polyamory. This could be relationship anarchy. This could be like that you're working on self-love. And this is someone who's actually doing really well at that. So even though this is a like relationships or love message, actually, that's specifically I said love message. I think this is about self-love and love of your life. So this nine of rupees, 9 of pentacles, I think both of these people are you. And the six of pentacles. I think that this is like you have this abundance of internal resources, external resources. You have a lot of energy, grace, time that you are mostly spending on yourself. Care. I'm so sorry about the lighting, guys. That you're actually doing really well in your life, and that you have a sense of freedom, like Virginia Woolf, I think, wrote A Room of One's Own. I haven't read it, but I've heard about it. Like you definitely have a room of your own. You need your space, and you have that, and you are then able to be from your cultivated, self-nourishing space. You are able to not just to have a wonderful, creative, abundant way of living space. Maybe your home is really decorated or nice, or you keep it clean. I don't even know. Maybe you're just a very creative person, so you need a lot of time alone to kind of recharge, and you need, maybe you feel very spiritually blessed. But I think that you do need a lot of time just with yourself. And that puts you in a very good place to then give of yourself to other people without putting yourself out. So this is like a wealthy person giving to social works and or like the poor, solidarity causes. But this person is doing this giving, doing this solidarity or this charity work, or even just having conversations and giving of their emotional, space and time, is able to approach relationships with people with poise and dignity, and is able to feel free to flow from one social interaction to the next social interaction that they need to have. You know, not that they're necessarily highly social, because again, like needing a lot of alone time, but that this person is free to choose who they associate with, and does so very fluidly, I think. Like there's that, as long as you keep investing into your own well-being and you keep filling your own cup first, you actually have more to give in that case. So the Six of Swords here is maybe you're spending a lot of time in therapy. Maybe you're focusing like on yourself, and or a therapeutic relationship. Now the therapeutic relationship is not a love relationship, and so I'm not really like, I think that there is love in the therapeutic relationship, only in the sense of unconditional love, like support, caring for someone's well-being and their personal and spiritual growth, etc. But so you may be spending time in therapy and having like a solid therapeutic relationship to then better and invest more into this relationship with yourself, that you have found that you are a small piece of the divine. You are an amazing font of creativity whenever you give yourself those nourishing things that you need, inspiration. Whenever your basic needs are met fully, then you can go on to, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You can fill other needs, and you can find inspiration and creativity, and then you have more to approach life with, and more to approach any relationships that you choose to have with that additional energy. Then the situation cards here, we have the Seven of Chalices, Seven of Cups, Judgment, and Temperance reversed. So I think that this is kind of, I heard with the Seven of Cups, this is like different options that you could have in your life, different things that you're thinking, well, maybe I could go toward that. Maybe I could emotionally invest in this. Maybe I could do this or that. Maybe I could, what if? This is like the Little Mermaid going, like, singing part of your world. What would I give if I could live out of these waters? This is very daydreamy, very, with your time and energy and creativity. Just kind of sitting in the fantasy realm of, you have to create it in fantasy before you create it in the tangible real life, or material life, sorry. You have to create it in fantasy first before you create it in the tangible life. So you are spending time determining what it is that you want to spend the time creating. And this in itself can be very regenerative as well, especially for people that like are highly introverted, highly intuitive. This can be some degree of fulfilling in and of itself for certain personality types, but I think also it is the most fulfilled whenever it moves from this stage into something else, into something tangible. And so I think that that's what this Judgment card is saying. It's like, well, you have all these creative ideas. You have all this inspiration that you're allowing yourself to have now. What are you going to do to make sure that those dreams that you have actually happen? with your renewed energy, with your love of yourself, with your, if you're dreaming about relationships with other people, what are you going to do to make that happen? Or if you're dreaming about, how do I find out more of who I am? How do I make something beautiful? Judgment is kind of like, put some more oomph behind it. Like, try to see what you can do now to work toward these ethereal visions of the future that maybe sometimes you have trouble tacking down, or like taking tangible steps toward. Judgment is like, in order to see them happen, you're going to have to kind of step up your game. And luckily, you've made the investment in yourself, in your relationship with yourself. You have the means and the energy now, and maybe the good self-talk, and kind of moving from one mindset to another, changing your internal thought patterns, etc., changing how you talk to yourself internally. Now that you have all this at your disposal, that you have this excess of energy, this abundance now, what are you going to do with it? It's wonderful to kind of sit and feel the fruits of this hard labor maybe that you've been doing to shift your mindsets. But now that you have the fruits of your labor, that more energy and a more compassionate view of yourself, a more loving view of yourself, if you have dreams of doing something with that renewed energy, what are you going to do with it? And whatever those dreams are, whether they are relationships with other people, or whether they are continuing to, plumb the depths of your own soul, whether they are to communicate more with your divine helpers, your spirit guides, your gods, or whether they are to do something creatively, become self-employed, become an entrepreneur, whatever those dreams are, while you have to kind of, you're in a great strategic place now to step up your game. Temperance reversed, I think, is also that, it's got two messages here. Again, I'm like, in the Thoth Tarot, this temperance is art. Temperance is called art. So I think, again, that speaks to creativity. I think this also is like, everything takes time. Judgment calls you to higher purpose. Judgment calls you to see where you can step up your game. But we don't want judgment in the reverse, where it's just like beating yourself up constantly. That's, I think, where you had come from, and you're getting out of that, and you're finding that calling yourself to higher purpose, or challenging yourself to make your dreams real, doesn't have to be at the expense of your well-being. You don't have to like should all over yourself. You don't have to talk nasty to yourself if you don't meet your expectations. Judgment in the positive aspect is the call to action, to challenge yourself and to invite and to welcome a new version of yourself, a new way of living, rather than to demand of yourself what you can't do quite yet. To just have such high expectations of yourself and of the progress of your dreams that you are actually immobilized by fear and self-doubt and hatred and taking things really to heart or personally and feeling really disappointed whenever things don't happen on the timeline that you expect. So judgment in the positive is a gentle but triumphant invitation of, hey, things can be better on the other side if you put particular work into it. That your challenges are there to help you. Your challenges are there to, how do I say? Loki made a face whenever I said that. Your challenges are there phrase it differently. Okay. A call or an invitation or a welcoming into a challenge doesn't have to mean winning or losing the challenge. It can mean I participated and I tried and that was fun and I learned something. And now if I challenge myself further again, if I try something new again, maybe I will have better tools next time. So with judgment and temperance here, I think that you're in a good space to, with your renewed self-trust, self-guidance, self-regeneration, and your increased energy, I think that you're in a good place to now mix it up. Yeah, to mix it up. And approach things with curiosity. So the invitation to find new ways of doing things, the new ways of living, is it doesn't have to be a demand from on high. You must. Heaven, hell, oh my God, it's so dire. It can be just like, hey, come join the party. He's playing music. He's like, hey, come join the party. It's like nice and fun over here. Somebody's playing loud music and you go, oh, what's that? And you go and investigate, Oh, what's that? That sounds fun. And then they're like, yeah, come on, we got beignets over here. We got, I don't know, pizza and wings and stuff. Come on. And temperance, trust the process. Like with art, like with creating trust within yourself. It's a process. It takes time. And if you have some moments that are not so great, you will have other moments that are a bit better and that you feel accomplished in what you're creating. Now, let's get our oracle cards from Loki's deck here that I made myself. Woo. There we go. Oh, okay. It's these. Oh, and it's 2. Yeah, he said 2. All right. Are these the right ones? Fishing net. Yeah, fishing net. Cast out a net. Pull it back slowly. See what you got. If you got something great, awesome. If you didn't get anything, okay, throw it back out. Reel it in slowly. What have you got? So try things. Experiment. Experiment. There's maybe also with the mythology of Loki creating the fishing net. There's also maybe like don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. Because what was Loki's undoing in that myth where he created the fishing net is that like he went to hide from the other gods because they were not happy with something that he had done. So he went to hide as a salmon under a waterfall. And he was like so worried about what if they catch me? How would they catch me? Because he's such, like a problem solver, overthinker. He's like, okay, if I were them, how would I catch me? And so he like creates the fishing net and is like, yeah, this would do it. This would catch me. Okay, now I know what to prepare for or what would be my undoing. Now I'm going to, now he like sets it in the fire and it burns up. And he's like, okay, now I know. I feel better knowing what would catch me. So then he goes to hide in the waterfall as a salmon. And then the other gods come out and find the camp and the fire and see the charcoal like burnt up fishing net and are like, whoa, that's interesting. I've never seen this before. I wonder why he made this. And so then they remake it and they're like, oh yeah, that would catch a fish, wouldn't it? And so then they catch Loki. So like maybe don't overthink it. There's also something in that story about like the creative process about like maybe that even though you need a lot of time alone, you don't have to hide your creative, like the things that you're creating or maybe even your creative process to an extent. You don't have to completely isolate yourself while you're making things. You can share your discoveries or you can share part of the process or your feelings about it with people in whatever way that you would like to. But yeah, don't get so caught up in the what ifs and what if that you become your own undoing. Say their mother. Be willing to try something new. Say their mother are basically in myth or in historical ancient like Old Norse culture. Say their mother were male witches or like male they were conceptualized as like men who did Sather, where Sather was like a woman's thing, right? It was oh sorry, I just heard that men who do math because math was a woman's thing for a while. Math was like taking stock and inventory of the home. Math was witchcraft. And so math was a woman's thing. And so I got, say their mother. It's like men who do math. Anyway, I'm sorry. But what this really says is, aside from the queer implications of say their mother, is be willing to try something new. Be willing to experiment. Be willing to mix things that you wouldn't normally mix and just try stuff out. And don't worry so much about what other people think. You don't have to show them the nitty-gritty of the failed experiments. But you can have some freedom to explore and to feel like you to feel empowered to mix things in a way that you wouldn't normally, to create new outcomes. And that's where innovation happens. So whenever whenever you only follow people's expectations, the flip side of that is that you never discover or give anything new. So it just kind of becomes old hat, it becomes boring. But if you are willing to mix things in ways that people maybe wouldn't have expected, or maybe yourself you wouldn't have thought, if not for some fluke of, you encountered something that was really inspiring to you and it made you think in new ways. Oh, okay, so how can I apply this to this situation then? And so you start kind of developing new ideas and what to try out. That's how you create innovation. That's how you have something that people haven't seen before in that way, and it's unique to you, and it is valuable, and it's inherently valuable in the learning experience and the relationship that you're growing with yourself. Maybe it's inherently value the process of it for you, but if you're wanting to if you're wanting to share it with other people, then not worrying so much what they think is going to be to your benefit, because that allows you more of an organic creative process that brings out new things and new aspects of you to share, and people will find that beautiful. This is the wrong deck. I need this deck. So we're going to get advice finally. I feel like this was longer than pile 1. I could be wrong. Oops, I wasn't maybe supposed to reshuffle, but oh well. Loki's gonna get me to the right cards anyway. What advice? Okay. 5 of Wands, the Magician, and the 8 of Coins. Yeah, this really does feel like an entrepreneurial project, doesn't it? And it is, this is a reading about a love message. So so this really does feel like part of loving yourself, and part of, not only is it giving you the regenerative energy to work toward like an entrepreneurial business, but I think also this entrepreneurial or this project, this soul work, this soul project, whether you receive compensation for it or not, this soul project or this creative project is also helping. Uno reverse, it's also helping with your self-love. And I think your love of like life and other people in general, platonic or otherwise. That knowing your own gifts, knowing your own gifts and how to use them is part of, not only does it make you special, but it also allows you to share those. You have to know your own gifts in order to share them with other people, to have like relationships. Even if that relationship is, I write a book and then, I don't know, years pass and I die. And then somebody reads my book. Like, that is still a transmission of creative knowledge or whatever. I don't know how much of a hermit you are. But yeah, you got to know your tools to know how to use them, and showing and demonstrating how you use your tools of creativity is going to, impress people, is going to, I know that maybe it feels like there's this conflict, internal conflict, maybe like, Are people gonna like it? Are people gonna like me? I don't know if I should. Maybe there's just kind of like stress or obstacles to kind of moving toward a entrepreneurial direction, or like spending more time with your soul work direction. Maybe you are worried about how is this going to pan out, or maybe that's why it feels maybe safer for a long time. It has felt safer to keep all of your fantasies and your dreams in the fantasy realm, in your imagination, rather than bringing them to life. But I mean, four you've got four majors in this reading. Like you've been the hermit, you have like judgment and temperance, where maybe I think that, since this is the situation, you have come to a realization that this is kind of in the recent past, that you've come to the realization that you need to invite yourself to experiment and try new things and try a new way of living. And now your advice is to be this magician that you kind of already are, that you have the tools assembled, you have the creativity. Now it's time to demonstrate what you can do. And in demonstrating what you can do, the people that will like it will come. And that will give you renewed purpose and hopefully a renewed and revitalized income. I wish you all the best. And at the very least, like, maybe you will feel more in tune with your soul, because now that you have better self-love, you can also love the experience and process of doing what makes you fulfilled. All right. Well, thank you so much, Pile 2. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If you'd like to support me monetarily, so that I can become an entrepreneur. If you'd like to support me monetarily, you can look in the description for my Venmo information. And it's not necessary. I put these readings out for free, so don't feel bad if you can't. But if you would like, it does help me to maybe move away from my own full-time job that I have to deal with, and maybe to be able to produce more content like this in the future, to do more readings in the future. So thank you so much, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. Like the video, subscribe, etc. Comment, you know what to do. Tell me about how did this reading resonate with you. All right, bye. Hello, Pile 3. If this is your reading, just some introductory stuff that I went over with the first two piles. One, we're going to be using both of these decks. And you'll see how. I think I think I talked about it in the intro as well. And this is meant to be polyamory inclusive, although it does not have to be polyamorous in nature. And although he could always surprise us, Loki has not been like really getting into the channeling thing with either of the first two readings. It's mostly just been a reading with messages from him. So let's get into it. Let me reground for a second. Oh, It says to start with this one. Okay. We pull from the top. So your theme is magician. And for the situation, we're going to draw here. I'm going to draw here. Okay. Okay. They weren't kidding. So context, I went to, we'll keep that out. Context, I went to sit on the balcony to recharge a little bit for this reading after doing the previous two. And I said, you know, for love messages, Loki, what are your intentions? What are your intentions for the next reading? What is the scope of the love message for pile 3? And he said, love of humanity. And I'm starting to see that here with this reading. So love of humanity. Not that. No. Okay. We got that. Okay. So what that was, we had death here, and we had the lovers here. No. Okay. So he's saying to shuffle them back in. But we did see those for a reason. So. In the context of love of humanity. All right. We've got the Empress. And Justice. We've got Justice twice. Okay. No, this is so extremely clear. Oh my God. In the context of love of humanity. Wow. Okay. So, pile 3. With themes of the magician. And this is about using the resources and the skills that you have and using them to the benefit of yourself and for, since Loki said humanity, then, and these 2 justice cards show up, then using your skills for the love of humanity. Now you are showing up as this Queen of Rupees, so this is someone who is maybe like a mini Empress. Mini Empress. Someone who is maybe either in the latter part of, or like just getting the hang of it. There we go. Just getting the hang of, or has come to new wisdom about the management of your resources, like skills, your internal resources, your energy, your how much time and focus you put toward things, how much money you put toward things, what you are investing in, whether physically, like materially or spiritually. And I think in this, it's also understanding with the magician and justice And this Six of Shells, gratitude. Oh my God, this is so very relevant to previous readings that I did, but you know, for myself recently, actually. This might be my pile. But I'll try to share some of the wisdom here. So this is learning that you can show love toward humanity, and yourself is included in humanity, that you are part of humanity. You can show love for humanity through justice, through equity, through standing up for what's right, through standing for your values, for acting on your values, and using the skills that you have in order to act on your values. Maybe your skills lie in the realm of, well, again, you're showing up as the Queen of Rupees, so your skills can show up in the material even more now that either you've gotten the hang of things materially, or you've come to a new realization and a new way of thinking about your place in the world and how you are interconnected with it. There we go. That's where I was getting to earlier. Come to a new understanding about like your place in the world and your interconnectedness with people. And also the word complicity keeps coming up. Not that I'm not meaning this in like an extremely judgmental way. It's just that, you know, the injustices of the world, let's say, the injustices of the world try to make us all complicit in our own and others' oppression, right? So part of showing love to yourself and to humanity is to take back your power and your autonomy when and where you can with the skills that you have, to actually use and demonstrate the skills that you have in order to create new outcomes that are moving toward justice and equity and your values, rather than acting in complicity with your own and humanity's self-destruction. This wild card here, I feel like this is Loki. Just because, like, so in The Legend of Zelda, Zant is like the main bad guy of the Twilight Princess. Isn't he? No, it's Ganondorf. It's still Ganondorf. Okay, but he's like a mini bad guy. Okay, no. It's still Ganondorf. But Zant is a kind of a secondary bad guy. You think that he's the main bad guy for the longest time. But Zant is kind of this quirky, seems really intimidating, but then like becomes just kind of like a strange fool. A strange fool. Ooh, I'm getting two different messages about this. So this is a double-sided wild card, actually. So this can be two different things. This can be, if you're showing up as this Queen of Rupees, this can be either Loki himself, because of the like weird quirkiness of the, you know, fiery King of Wands energy. Might be a bad guy, might just be weird. We don't know. Of course, I don't think Loki's a bad guy, obviously, or, you know, he wouldn't be one of my main gods, but but mythologically, he's treated as such sometimes. But this kind of quirky guy, but very creative, very, very, like has this fashion sense. I've always loved the way that Zant's outfit is, so like in The Legend of Zelda. Look at this freaking helmet. Like, but whenever he takes the helmet off whenever he takes the helmet off, the helmet is the most intimidating part of him. So whenever he takes it off, he's like, I don't know, he almost like becomes like wibbly wobbly in his movements. Anyway, so point being, I'm getting distracted. Point being that this is someone who has a lot of charismatic presence, but also a lot of like weird differences or divergences from the from the expected society, from the social rules, and whenever he takes the mask off, it becomes more apparent. So I feel like this could be Loki, like aiding you. If Loki is one of your gods, you know, this could be Loki aiding you in this process of moving towards justice and love of humanity. This could be kind of your internal inspired or like creative self, or your rebellious self. What I was also getting, how political should I make this reading? Loki's like, go for it. Go for it. So let's talk about Palestine. Because right now, that really is the elephant in the room about this reading right now. Of course, this marks it in time a little bit. But let's say that this is about all kinds of oppression, because the situation in Palestine is kind of a very, very potent symbol of resistance to oppression. And what I was getting that, you know, if you're reading this in the time of 2024, you know, Palestine is really on most, if not all, politically conscious and leftist bent sort of like people's minds, people that are really aiming toward justice. So we'll use that as a metaphor, or yeah, as like an inspiration or background of what this reading is saying. But if you're watching this at another time, then the metaphor or the symbol can be about other things, right? So what I was getting is that if this King of Wands, this could be, if King of Wands is in good aspect. If King of Wands is in good aspect, then this can be a really charismatic, creative person. This can be someone who is very impassioned and very empowered to work towards justice as love of humanity. But if this King of Wands is not well aspected, this can be someone who has used charisma to gain power without having the underlying value system to back it up. So then this could be someone like a president of the United States. This could be, you know, someone who is complicit in genocide and or complicit in sending resources to oppressive systems or oppressive governments or oppressive institutions, can be very complicit in doing that for very selfish reasons. And so this, you know, positively aspected, this can be you, or this can be your guides kind of helping you to act in this energy. Negatively aspected, this can be someone who is greedy and self-serving, but is using charisma in order to get what they want. And I think is very, very good at lying, very good at propaganda. And so we have to watch out for this. In trying to be this, we need to look out for people who are this and know the difference. Six of Shells, gratitude. One of the things that I was saying in a more of a vlog style video recently that I made, I was talking about, and I might link it below actually for you to check it out, but I was talking about action, inaction, and 3 theories about guilt and where guilt comes from. With justice, we are aspiring to lofty goals. We are aspiring to even reachable goals. One of the things that, I think that people get stuck in thinking that creating a better world is too hard, but that becomes our own undoing, because if we believe that it's too hard, then it never actually comes to pass, and we never show ourselves how easy it actually is. We kind of shoot ourselves in the foot there. So we have to be optimistic, and we have to believe in justice, and we have to believe in a better world in order to see it come to pass. And that action is loving. It is, we don't need to live in a world of authoritarianism and might makes right and punishment. We can have nice things where people work together for the betterment of all people. And remember that scarcity is constructed by society. So we could also get into climate justice. Like, I've been reading this book. Here, let me show you the book. I've been reading this book about climate justice. And it's This Changes Everything by Naomi Klein. Capitalism versus the Climate. We must remember that scarcity is constructed by systems that want to deprive you of the natural abundance of the earth so that they can take the resources of the earth and or of other cultures and or, to take the resources of the earth and sell them back to you after they have deprived you of them. So anyway, the three theories of guilt, of like, should I be doing more? Can I be doing more? I feel like maybe I'm not doing enough. Maybe I feel complicit in, the inherent complicity of oppression, how it makes us all complicit in our own and others' destruction, the complicity in the destruction of the earth. If that guilt of your forced complicity, your forced submission to oppressive systems and oppressive government and so forth, oppressive ideas, if that forced submission and that forced complicity is making you feel guilty, so let me briefly run through the three theories of guilt. So one, theory that guilt is like a secondary emotion, that underneath it are more deeper emotions, like, or primary emotions like, grief, loss, anger, fear, or love. So one theory is to bring guilt and see, where is it coming from? Is it coming from, as a secondary emotion, what is it coming from? And what emotion needs to be felt first? What is it a distraction away from? Second theory of guilt is that you can take action, take tangible steps, use your magician's tools in order to find where you have a place within the earth, within the world, within global society or local society. Use your tools and your skills to find your place of what you can do to assuage the guilt. That guilt is a sign from the body and the soul that it's time to take action, a few actions. It's time to do something. It's not that you need to be punished, it's nothing like that. It's that it's a signal that you need to do something. So do something and then see how you feel afterward. The third theory of when you feel guilt, that you should try to center in gratitude. Now, I understand that a lot of people, myself included, have some kind of aversion to the concept of gratitude sometimes, you know, especially if you're a highly traumatized person or have been in the past. Or, you know, sometimes people who don't understand how trauma works use like, oh, you should just be grateful for the, like, as a band-aid when it's like, I don't need a band-aid. I need a reconstructive surgeon, okay? Like, I have, my wound is so much bigger than a band-aid can fix, right? And so then we hear the word gratitude and we shudder a little bit and like, ugh, ugh, why are you saying this to me? Because it hasn't been helpful in the past, right? For highly traumatic situations, highly traumatic pains. And that some people use gratitude or in the vein of toxic positivity, right? In the vein of spiritual bypassing. Oh, just don't feel the negative emotions. Just don't feel those. Remember whenever I said that theory 1 was to actually feel your primary feelings? Yeah, like if you're worried about spiritually bypassing with gratitude, try option 1 instead. First. If that doesn't work, move on to option 2. If that doesn't work, move on to option 3. You know, like, use what's going to be useful to you. But I'm just giving you all the different tools so that you can decide what's best for you. So what I mean by centering in gratitude or moving toward a gratitude space when you feel guilt or complicity is that if you have a narrative playing in your head of, I don't deserve to have the things that I have, whether that's safety, especially in regard to like, bring it back. Okay. Less specific, Robin. Sorry. Okay. Whether it be, I feel guilty that I have safety when, for instance, the people in Palestine don't. The people in the Congo don't. The people in Sudan don't. Or if you're thinking like, I have food and water, clean water and nutritious food, and right now the people of Gaza are starving, or, you know, don't have clean water, if you're thinking like guilt, I have access to internet when various, you know, I have this, and other people don't. And you get stuck and demobilized in the feeling guilt of like, I have all these things that other people don't. Do I even deserve them? Remember that inherently privilege is not about deserving. That's what the oppressors want you to think. That because you have something or you don't have something, that says something about your worth as a human being. So you have to center in the gratitude of that, like, you have to center in the belief that, like, deserving what I have or not deserving what I have doesn't really come into the picture. It's nothing about my worth as a human being that gives me access to these things. It's other systems, privilege and oppression. It's other systems that I can't easily control all the time. You know, I can't control where I was born. I can't control the color of my skin, and that, you know, for instance, I have white privilege. I can't control, you can't control your sexuality, your, who you who you gravitate to love romantically or sexually, or you can't control your level of ability. So like all of these things, I think this, to center in gratitude for that third theory, what it really is a radical acceptance of your situation and what you have and what you don't have, and to completely disconnected from your sense of your own worthiness. Your sense of your worthiness has to be rooted and unconditional in the concept of that every human being is inherently worthy, and that every human being is inherently worthy is a worldview that will lead you to more justice and equity. So if every human being is worthy, but you have some things that other people don't, that's when we have to go to radical acceptance of like, I can't control everything in the world, and I can utilize the tools at my disposal to make sure that I'm okay, so that then I can use my excess energy and resources to work toward justice. And you can be thankful that, for instance, you're not always worried about dying every day. You have a degree of safety, you have nourishment, you have books, and you have furniture, and you have, access to the internet and computer, a cell phone, and like all these things. You have these tools that you can use to make sure that you're okay as a baseline. And then once you're okay, you can then make sure that you are giving your excess energy toward justice and equity, toward your values. But if you get stuck in thinking I don't deserve, what you're doing is you're self-harming internally. You're just beating yourself up for things you can't control. So that's why you have to just be radically acceptant, be compassionate with yourself about hey, this doesn't have anything to do with my worth. This doesn't have to do with anybody else's worth. And we can work together toward a future wherein everybody can have the things that I have. Because I want them, I love my fellow human beings, and I want them to have the blessed and wonderful things that I have as well. And knowing that scarcity is constructed, I believe that they can have the things that I have. And for now, so that I don't get blocked, so that I don't get stuck in self-punishment for things I can't control, what I need to say instead is, thank you. I'm so glad. I'm so relieved. Thank you, universe. Thank you, gods. Thank you, ancestors. Or, thank you, myself. Thank you, myself, or my past self, for learning to use the resources that I have. Thank you, my past self, for surviving all of my trials, all of my obstacles. Thank you, my past self, for never giving up on me. Thank you, my past self, for learning how to take care of myself better so that I do have excess energy to give the world. Thank you, universe and forces that I don't understand, God, thank you, higher power, spirit, source. Thank you for, even though there are things that I would like to work toward in society, to make it different. Thank you for nature. Thank you for this body. Thank you, my body. And for thank you, my friends, for supporting me, or for, you know, loving me, caring for me. Thank you, my body, for always keeping me alive and giving me the ability to walk around, and for having senses and that can experience, you know, new things and you know, pleasure and whatever. So being grateful for what you do have also is part of understanding. It's I think it's highly connected with knowing the tools that you have and being grateful that you have the ability to use them for good. You see how these things are linked? Like, thank you for the situations that allow me to have this thing that contributes to my well-being, so that then I can work toward contributing to the well-being of others, so that everybody one day can have what I have. Anyway, I feel like I'm belaboring the point, so let's move on. The priestess, or high priestess. This I think about, this is a very like decolonialism, like re-indigenation, high priestess. I feel like this is like getting back in touch with natural impulses in your body, allowing your heart to tell you where to go next, to not overthink and not justify, well, I don't understand all of the specifics and details of the situation. Like, definitely you can educate yourself, you can read, but to use Palestine again as a metaphor, when you see children being murdered and your heart says that's wrong, your heart is speaking the truth. And it's your brain, your mind, your overactive, overthinking mind that tries to keep your worldviews as they exist from crumbling, because that means, you know, reassessing, rethinking, how does the world work, reorganizing your mental landscape. And your brain doesn't always want to do that. So your brain will come up with justifications, or will come up with ways to hide from the truth sometimes, when your heart knows the truth. And your heart is like, I see people suffering, and that's wrong. I see people suffering, and I want to care for and help them. I see people suffering, and I want them to have the good things in life that I have. I see people suffering, and I see myself if I was in their situation. And that connection to your fellow human being is what leads you to do the right things. Center in your heart space, and center in the inherent impulses of your body that is a gentle animal that wants to be in connection with other gentle animals. And I think of, I hear, like, I choose to be childless, and I'm never going to have children, but I still have this like instinct in me that if I hear a baby crying, everything in my body screams to go and tenderly care for that baby and make sure that baby has everything that they need and everything that they want. They're just a baby. They're helpless. And whenever I hear a baby screaming, a baby crying, everything in my body says, I have to help that baby. Okay? as an example. Whenever I see children being murdered in Palestine, whenever I see children in the Congo being forced into child labor in very unsafe conditions, to mine coltan and titanium and zinc and cobalt and copper. And I see these children suffering, these children whose childhoods have been stolen away from them to be forced into essentially slave labor. My heart yearns to do something, to take action, to make those child's lives better. Whenever I hear stories coming out of Sudan that I should not look it up. If you trigger warning and everything, and trigger warning for any of these things that I just mentioned, but whenever I see women fearing for their bodily safety, let's say, and fearing sexualized violence, my heart screams, and I think, if that were me, what if that were me? What if that were me? What if that were me? I would want my fellow human beings to help. And I, as a human being, want to help my fellow human beings. So listen to your heart, because it knows that the laws of society that humankind has created sometimes just get tied up in tedious bullshit, or like corruption and greed and things that don't make any sense. You don't have to know the ins and political outs of a situation or the history of the region to know that people suffering doesn't have to happen. And when your heart tells you this is wrong, listen to it. Okay. So, we are going to get oracle cards from Loki's oracle deck that I made myself. And see what Loki's godly themes or I wonder. I pulled this one out myself, but let me think about it. Let's see if Loki's themes, mythology, etc. have any insight for us. Okay, no, yeah, there's things to go off of here. Okay. So, Askeladden. Askeladden is sometimes syncretized with Loki in mythology. Askeladden was a Scandinavian story, specifically I think Norwegian, and Askeladden, or the Ash Lad, was the youngest child of a family, and was considered weak by the standard of like his stronger brothers, and he was a dreamer. He was kind of a thinker, a problem solver, and spent a lot of time doing his own thing, instead of like, doing physical activities and whatever, and chopping wood and doing all those like things that strong men do. I guess. So he was called the Ash Lad because his job, as the smallest child, as the weakest one, his job that was normally reserved for very small children and or the elderly was to sweep out the fireplace. Um, so Askeladden ends up leaving home and solving problems and toppling the king in order to, kind of a reverse of like the poor rising up into power. So he becomes the king, marries the princess, whatever. So like it's a reversal of, because of his wit and his skill, he's able to trick giants out of things and into giving him things, and he's able to trick, or like he's able to problem solve so that the king is made to give up his power so that Askeladden can rise to power. So it's a very like topsy-turvy kind of like the fool sort of energy about like the underdog rises up and nobody expected it, but here we are. So this is making me think of also with the contextual history of like it being kind of it being a Norwegian myth and Norway's separation from Sweden and becoming an independent nation from Sweden. I think that there's also like there's stuff here about the working class or the lower class or the oppressed people rising up, the global south rising up. We see definitely in the situation happening in 2024 about Palestine, and how Yemen, that was, has been historically starving and also bombed. Yemen rising up in defense of Palestine. Palestine that has for 75 years been under brutal occupation and apartheid and is now being, and has been, but is now very viciously being bombed and, genocide committed against them. The global south of like Haiti. Haiti is having a lot of struggle right now. Haiti has been, I think it was like since, what was it, 2004 or was it 2014? I would have to review this, but I just watched a thing about this. Haiti was colonized by the United States, and the United States went in and deposed their democratically elected ruler, and then helped to put in somebody who was more of an authoritarian or like occupation, and that the United States was in order to take Haiti's resources. So there is this like this energy of like being a rebel, shaking things up. You were the underdog and now it's your turn to shine. So how in your life, pile 3, are you either championing underdogs, or how have you been an underdog who has then toppled structures and what have you learned from that? And how can you use the tools at your disposal, even if you might have disadvantages, even if you are like the youngest or weakest of the children of your family or whatever, for example, for Askeladden. But you have like this wonderful wit, and you have this sense of creativity, and you have this sense of courage, and you find new ways to look at and solve problems. How can you utilize that to your advantage and to the advantage of the world? Also, maybe pay attention to, depending on when you're watching this, pay attention to the changing and the shifting of power within the world. Learn to recognize propaganda. And that what people say is going on is not necessarily always what's going on actually. Remember that especially large media companies that are bought and paid for by certain political factions. make sure that you know the framing affects how and what people choose in the news sources to show you affects how you think about the situation, but it's not always like people have agendas and they try to make you understand the situation the way that they want you to understand the situation, whether or not it's true, one, and whether or not is in alignment with your values, two, and whether or not your heart is like, actually, this doesn't make fucking sense, and what you're telling me is not what I'm seeing with my eyes and what I'm feeling with my heart, you know. There's a lot of gaslighting in the world right now. Pay attention to the shifts of power. Pay attention to the wealthy countries and the wealthy groups of people, the wealthy classes of people that have power. Think back to that metaphor of like scarcity is constructed. So when you have rich countries or rich people and poor countries, remember that the earth is naturally abundant and that scarcity is constructed, and then ask yourself, how did they become so rich and how did they become so poor? If everybody is just a human, how did this happen? And the earth is naturally abundant. How did this happen? Start investigating how resources and why resources are taken from one place and into another, and how that taking and sectioning off of resources for a particular agenda or for a particular only us group of people. Start figuring out how that is happening in order to find out how best to use your tools to change things or to oppose things, to work toward more equity. That's all I'm saying. I'm being kind of a mix of like specific and also vague. I'm doing my best here. I'm sorry. Scarlet. This is about speaking. This is about the danger and the power of speaking, of using your voice. It's also a little bit about like Loki had his, I don't know if you can see this, had his lips sewn shut. Had his lips sewn shut after he tricked some dwarvish craftsmen into giving the gods amazing gifts, by like appealing to their ego and like, I don't think you can make as good of a gift as this other person. So I think there's something there about like, you know, I'm not going to go that detailed actually. I think that's for another video. Coming back to what I was originally going to say about this is about the power of speaking or not speaking. It's also a little bit about like the punishment, like that sometimes you face danger and punishment from the powers that be, from the oppressions that be, for speaking truth, especially speaking truth to power. There's, within social media, there's shadow banning, there's online cyberbullying and harassment, sometimes that are perpetrated by websites where they gather a bunch of bigots together and they decide who to go after, and then they do so. Sometimes it's like robots, like it's an algorithmic thing. Somebody has created a program that goes out and cyberbullies people, and some, like, all of these are attempts to punish you and to deter you from exercising your rights and exercising your values. Right? But they do that the powers and oppressions that be try to silence you and try to silence the oppressed because they are actually afraid of the power of the voice of the oppressed and people speaking up for the oppressed. If you look at Palestine, for 75 years, Palestine is a metaphor, for 75 years, there has been this occupation. And the narratives coming out of like how Palestine exists, and the narrative that the occupation by Israel was hit, like it was just glossed over, like, oh, occupation? What occupation? And that, you know, that Israel in its creation happened from a genocide. Like, Israel was created through the Nakba, through the displacement, ethnic cleansing, the genocide, murders of Palestinian people in 1948. So the narratives that are perpetuated about the situation, if your voice and your truth and your experiences are countering that narrative and saying, hey, actually, you're saying one thing, you're saying that Israel is like the good guy or whatever, but I see them actually committing genocide over and over and over and over and over with impunity. And you say, actually, my heart knows what's right, and I'm not stupid. And I'm seeing with my own eyes that the story that you're giving me is not what's happening. Often you are punished for it. They try to silence you. It's because they are afraid of the power that truth holds. Look at the narrative shift that has happened just within the past 4 months in 2024. 2023 and 2024, where people that didn't know anything about Palestine, maybe didn't even know that Palestine existed, like, suddenly we have become experts. Suddenly we have become far more knowledgeable about Palestine and the suffering for 75 years of the Palestinian people, because they have been showing us through social media and through recording and documenting their own genocide, and telling us, and specific people have been telling us in English what is going on, and have been countering the propaganda narratives of the Western corporatized, bought and paid for media that has its own agenda, that is very pro-Israel, and is being either paid by Israel or silenced by people who are paid by Israel. You know, APAC is a very big problem. Look it up, APAC. AIPAC, I think. But the narrative has shifted, and we can't go back to the way that things were. Because speaking the truth is extremely powerful. People, humanity, who just want to exist and just, you know, live our lives and love our fellow human beings. When we see people suffering, when we finally do actually see people suffering, and it's not hidden, then we have to speak up about it. It's that internal drive of, like, the baby is crying, I have to help. Because I love my fellow humans. And that is extremely powerful. Truth and love. Some of the most powerful things that exist in this earth. Truth and love. And if they can move the political, like, the way that everything has been covered in Palestine and for so long, if truth and love can change the public opinion so fast, And now you see politicians reacting to it, and like you see the International Court of Justice made a ruling. Finally. Well, they made a preliminary ruling, at least in this time period. They made a preliminary ruling that, like, yes, actually this might be genocide, where everybody else is like, well, yeah, no shit. But finally, you know, they're actually like legally trying to hold Israel accountable for what they've been doing for the past 75 years. The shifting public opinion did that. And that happened because Palestinians spoke the truth of their lives. And that other people, seeing that, shared it with others. The truth is a very powerful thing. All right. Let's get advice cards. Mother of Shells, provider. Healer, Crone of Cups. Hollow Victory, Five of Knives. We want to go in and save people. You know, it's our sense of self-importance and our sense of our deeply passionate emotions, don't get me wrong. And we have every right to be deeply passionate about something that our hearts are screaming about with grief and love and wanting to help. But we want to go in and be a provider in a way, I think, that is like we want to be a savior. And major changes and shifts in power just don't happen that way. We can do what we can. We cannot do everything. So it's important to give yourself the grounded understanding of, these are the tools that I have to use. This is what I can do. And this doing everything is what I cannot do. I can do some things. I cannot do everything. I can boost, share, show up in solidarity in various ways, show up to protests. I can boycott, divest, and sanction. I can use the tools at my disposal. I can share the information that I've learned. I can share my passion for this cause or these causes with the people that I know and that I care for, my close friends and family. I can do those things, and they do make a very big difference. But we cannot do everything, especially not alone, and especially not immediately. Change doesn't happen immediately. And I know that sometimes we want to be a savior, or we want there to be a savior for us. We want to think that the next political candidate that we elect is going to save us. And that has not been the case ever. And it will never be the case that a political candidate that we vote for will save us. We have to shift how we look at the world, and we have to shift how we live our lives. And we have to do it as communities and as groups of people, large groups of people. We have to make the tangible shifts ourselves from the grassroots, not from a top-down power. And that's why also saviorism doesn't work. It's because it's from a top-down perspective. Saviorism is, I'm going to descend from the heavens and I'm going to fix your situation. When maybe you don't completely understand their situation, or like maybe you don't understand all the nuances of it. Also, like, if you exert that much power and control over people that you can instantly fix their situation. Maybe you need to consider what about the structures of the world have created that scarcity that they cannot fix their own stuff. Like, I understand that those scarcity, those systems of inequity and those, colonialism and the resource taking and theft and already exist. But that's what I'm saying is that, like, if you are able to, if something or someone has the power to instantly fix something for someone else, ask yourself, why do they have that much power over this other person and their life? Because something about that is not balanced. Why do they have that much power over that other person in the first place? Now that we are in a situation, especially with regard to Palestine, where so much of our tax dollars, for instance, are going toward the oppression of Palestine, taking our, again, we have this refrain, taking our resources, creating scarcity within, in my case, the American population, taking our tax dollars, taking our resources, creating scarcity within us, to then give it to Israel to create scarcity for Palestinians. So, about the situation about Palestine specifically, the person that can instantly fix this situation is Joe Biden by calling for a ceasefire. But every day he chooses not to. So what does that say about him? I think that says that he's not connected to his heart. I don't think he has one. But this is about you. Understand that you can't instantly fix what your heart desperately wants you to. Because life just doesn't work that way. And if somehow it did in certain situations, ask yourself how you got there to where you have so much power over someone else. I think that a lot of people in this pile do want to be or think of themselves as healers, and are very motivated to do what you can to help the world, to help your fellow human beings. And I think you're putting unbalanced pressure on yourself. If you're stuck in guilt, you're putting pressure on yourself in a way that blocks you. If you're stuck in avoidance, then you're putting this internal fear and pressure on yourself that I'm not powerful enough to face realities, to face the truth, to face my own emotions, etc. And also, if you're putting the pressure on yourself to be able to instantly fix everything, that's not fair to you either. We have to do things in community. We have to do it together. And we have to do it sustainably, long term, not overnight. And I know how painful that is sometimes when you just want the suffering to end. Keep in touch with your heart and your feelings while you're facing that reality, because I know that it is hard. Find ways to continually hope and keep up your energy for the long term, because otherwise, if you get stuck in illusions that you can fix everything instantly, you're going to burn out. You're going to run into disappointment. Hollow victory. A lot of people were upset that the International Court of Justice decision, or like not even decision yet, but like, yes, it is plausible that a genocide is happening. It's going to take, what, 4 to 10 more years. I don't know how long it's going to take several more years for the International Court of Justice to actually make the case and the ruling that genocide is happening. Now, they try to do the intervening. They tried to call for intervening measures to stop the genocide happening, like now. But a lot of people were very disappointed, understandably so, that the International Court of Justice saying, yes, there is plausible legal case for genocide, and that we can move toward international justice and international consequences for Israel in the United States and the UK for being complicit. But a lot of people were disappointed that it did not instantly change anything. That whenever the ICJ said Israel has to stop, they did not stop, for one. But then also that countries that sign on to the International Court of Justice, and it is their duty and obligation under international law and the agreements that they signed, it is their duty to prevent genocide from continuing to happen, and that they haven't been doing that. They've been talking a lot of talk, and they've been seeing the changing winds and the changing public opinions, and they've been talking a lot of talk, but they haven't been actually doing anything. And I do personally have hope that the International Court of Justice ruling is going to make major benefits for not just Palestine, but for the world at large. I think that it is going to, I think that the rise of the global south is very interesting, and I think that it does have a lot of joyful potential and hopeful potential for shifting power and toppling empires. And I am interested to see this play out, and I am wanting myself also, pile 3, to contribute to justice, love of humanity. And pile 3, we have to not let our disappointments in the time frame of things overwhelm us, and we have to find hope where we can, so that we can keep going, because we also are the hope of other people that need us to keep going, that need us to use the skills and the tools that we have. This one was a bit more rough, a bit deeper. So I'm just going to check in with Loki. Hold on. Loki, is there anything else that you would like pile 3 to know? Keep your inner spark alive. When I was in the cave with the snake venom dripping on my face, I had no hope, except for the hope that my wife, Sigyn, holding the bowl over my head to save me some few moments from the venom dripping on me. I had no hope other than what she gave me. Sometimes we are the hope for others who cannot have it yet. And sometimes we do collapse in despair, but when we regain our energy, we stand back up if we can, and we hold the bowl for others and ourselves. And we wait. We do what we can while we wait for better times. We hasten those better times if we can, if our skills allow. We work toward the future that is whole. Complete. Fulfilled. But when we are in the darkness of the cave, with this torturous dripping, we need others to reflect the hope that we could have in ourselves, in our moments of clarity. Human beings rely on each other to mirror to each other what they need and want and value. Human beings want to gather collectively and to move as a unit together. And so remind your fellow beings with your actions and your words that when they are tired and they are sitting with they're sitting on the ground with their faces toward the dirt and their limbs aching, tap them on the shoulder and point upward and say, both, I am with you and there is hope. We will keep finding it together. That is how you show your fellow humans love the most. We are sharing our struggles. We are finding solutions, and we are keeping our hearts tender toward each other, and we are finding hope together. When I lose mine, you have hope, and when you lose yours, I have hope. And we share in those resources. We share in what another doesn't have, and we give to them at a time that they are in need, because we know that next time we will be in need and we will receive from them as well. So loving your fellow humans is oh God, what is the specific phrase that you're using right now? Hold on. What is that specific phrase? It's like determined positivity, determined hopefulness, determined positivity, radical hope, insistent. Positive leftism. Positive leftism. fierce and determined, radical faith in the future. And with that, I leave you, he says. All right. Well, I'll take that as the key to the cue to exit. And thank you so much for pile 3. I hope that this reading was helpful to you. If you would like to leave me a tip, if you would like to thank me for my services, you can do so by looking in the description and donating toward my Venmo. Do know that I will never ask you for, I will never ask to do readings for you, paid readings for you in the comments or anything like that, but in the description of the video, I will put my Venmo if you choose to send some shine my way. Otherwise, like this video, subscribe if you want to see more content, and I will see you next time. Bye!